all told, there were 80 masked individuals and up to 25 cars with their license plates covered that participated in the coordinated attack. Now, in the end, they stole upwards of $200,000 worth of merchandise. That's a lot of staples. Now, if you think these thugs are going to face repercussions, think again, because last year, radical leftist Contra Costa DA Diana Becton put forward a new policy requiring that prosecutors must act leniently and consider whether the theft was committed for personal need. Now, isn't Louis Vuitton needed by everyone? Now, if that's not maddening enough, San Francisco's ABC affiliate ran an article quoting experts who warned against using the term looting when describing acts like this, as it incorporates racial undertones, they say. Now, joining me now is Stephen Miller, former Trump senior advisor, America First legal founder, Harmeet Dillon, attorney and RNC committeewoman for California, and Tammy Bruce, Fox News contributor and host of Get Tammy Bruce on Fox Nation. Harmeet, we have DAs from coast to coast who are literally endangering their citizens. This has to stop. How and when will it stop?
Well, Laura, I think that even liberals in these liberal cities like San Francisco and the parts of Contra Costa County affected by this are beginning to wake up. I'm seeing this in my Nextdoor app. I'm seeing it in the efforts to recall some of these politicians. And so that's good news. But what we need, Laura, is for good career prosecutors to step up, for lawyers to step up and run for these positions. They've typically been neglected, at least by conservatives who want to run for higher offices. I think it's very important that we give voters a choice. And when they have a good choice, they are beginning to elect those politicians and prosecutors who are more in favor of public safety. But the problem here in California, Laura, is not just the crazy prosecutors. It's that we have these so-called criminal justice reform laws, Prop 47, Prop 57, that effectively allow these people to downgrade these serious crimes down to misdemeanors. And in fact, prosecutors and judges have almost no latitude in that regard. Yeah. So those laws need to be changed as well.
So there's no repercussions. And Stephen, you see this again across the country. It's not just California. It's not just Chicago. There's theft and robbery everywhere. Your group is involved in some efforts to get some of these lousy DAs out, but they're well funded, are they not?
Well, the left's effort to destroy the rule of law in America is financed by some of the richest people on planet Earth, including George Soros. People who live in functional palaces with security guards and gates and walls, and then they're forcing on unsuspecting citizens prosecutors who are literally protecting violent criminals and resulting not only in massive looting and theft, but of course catastrophes like we've seen in Wisconsin. This needs to be a national movement to restore law and order in this country at every level. And when Republicans win back the majority, they need to pass legislation that conditions federal funding on tough on-crime policies.
Now, Tammy, I want to move to this, your hometown in New York City, where a statue of Thomas Jefferson yesterday was removed from City Hall. It's been there for 187 years. Now, 4 years ago, when the left really started getting going on the tearing down the Confederate statues, Trump was ridiculed for predicting this.
This week it's Robert E. Lee. I noticed that Stonewall Jackson's coming down. I wonder, is it George Washington next week, and is it Thomas Jefferson the week after? You know, you really do have to ask yourself, where does it stop? Are we going to take down statues to George Washington? How about Thomas Jefferson? What do you think of Thomas Jefferson? You like him?
I do love
Okay, good. Are we going to take down the statue? Because he was a major slave owner.
Tammy, once again, Trump was right. We're going to say that a lot, I'm sure.
We will indeed. And of course, he was right. We saw it unfolding once again in Northern California. San Francisco School Board focusing on changing the names of schools that had honored Abraham Lincoln and George Washington. Americans are seeing this. We're seeing this unfold in the polls. But what this really hits at is the nature and the heart of what it means to be American. And because this is a nation built on an idea represented by the founders, you've got to erase the nation's heroes and then you can erase the reason for the nation to exist. This is classic. You can see these people in universities sitting around a seminar table talking about this, the state of nature that they seem to want us to revert back into, this Hobbesian reality, which was meant, by the way, Laura, to be an excuse where they thought that, at least Hobbes did, that then people would embrace a totalitarian regime. You know, these are people that come from a university that focus on this kind of dynamic, ruining people's lives, creating like the props, like Prop 47 in California, that makes it a ticket. If you shoplift anything up to $900, they're asking for people to ruin their own lives, to rely on the worst of ourselves. And of course, that is not in the American sensibility. It's not the American way. And they're trying. You got to hand it to them. They're trying to do this. New York is letting it happen. And of course, New Yorkers and others, they voted for a lot of Republicans in this last election. But we must step up and say enough is enough, because the people it hurts, Laura, as you know and everyone knows, are the people in the urban areas, the people who have poverty. These stores that get robbed, like grocery stores, they've been shutting down. They leave these neighborhoods, and it destroys jobs, and it destroys the quality of life in general.
Well, staying in the Big Apple, there's a new bill in New York that would allow illegals to vote in local elections, 800,000 of them to be exact. So it's expected to be approved next month, and that means New York City is the largest municipality in the country allowing non-citizens to vote. Harmeet, quick reaction, then Miller has to react to that one.
Yeah, look, we already have this law in San Francisco with respect to the school board. In reality, only like a few dozen parents signed up to vote there, so I don't think they're making a difference there. But if they were allowed to vote countywide, it would be very different, Laura. And so, you know, when you have prosecutors like Diana Becton and like Kesa Boudin, who are basically saying that these looters and rioters are Jean Valjean from Les Miserables, as if they, you know, really need a handbag to eat and survive, you have a very distorted vision of reality there, Laura. So, you know, I think that people are going to reject that, hopefully.
Well, Stephen, you predicted this. Yeah, Stephen, you predicted this, that this would happen. We let millions in, the foundations of the country torn down by the left, replaced with what? Some Bolshevik-style idea of what America should be? A global, component?
You're witnessing the plan in action, and we're all living through the horrors of it. They're trying to abolish citizenship, abolish borders, abolish the concept of sovereignty itself. And I will tell you this, Laura, that in 2024, President Trump could win back the White House on the issue of restoring border control alone, because what is happening to this country today will, if not stopped, be its ruination.
And we're also finding out, Tammy, that in Fairfax County, that has seen so much of the tumult with the CRT and all that, now Afghan refugees are coming in, many of them unvetted. I mean, these are kids who they're entitled to an education, but the schools are already under huge pressure after COVID, low test scores, all the rest, and now bringing in hundreds of refugees who, you know, most of them didn't have any formal schooling in Afghanistan, and now they're in places like Fairfax.
Yes, we saw this, always we've seen it at the border even, where you've got individuals at the Border Protection and other people who are trying to teach English are teaching people who necessarily haven't even held a writing instrument from South and Central America. So we've got this bulk of individuals who've come from totalitarian societies, who know nothing, perhaps don't know how to read, certainly don't necessarily know the language, and are in this environment very vulnerable. These are vulnerable individuals who can be great Americans if they make it through, and yet they're going to be condemned because of a dynamic we see where they've targeted American kids. These kids coming over, these young people, they're looking at them like the next meal. The teachers' unions, the left, this is why this is happening. They need to keep them ignorant, keep them vulnerable, and that's why, of course, all of us have to care about this, regardless of your position politically on immigration or anything else. This kind of attitude has destroyed the countries that these people are fleeing, and now we're putting them back into that environment here. It's unacceptable.
Now, panel, wonderful to see all of you. Have a great Thanksgiving. And government and the media are trying to limit your Thanksgiving celebrations, and Biden gives the country the bird. Raymond Arroyo will explain it in a special Tuesday edition of Seen and Gobble Gobble Unseen next.